it is to sit firstly this close to a lion, but also just the dimensions of it. Over the years, I've been part of, in some reserves, when lions are captured, sometimes to either get genetic blood samples or to maybe relocate to other reserves. And like so many things, you don't really appreciate the size of things until you get close to them. You know, you look at an aeroplane far away and it's an aeroplane, but once you walk up to it, you realize there's dimensions of it. Now, a lion, a big male like this, he's not exceptionally big. I mean, he's a big male for this area, but he would probably be in the region of 200 kilograms. That's 400, let's say between 400 and 460 pounds. So if I had to estimate his weight, I would say he's probably, when he's full, he would be about 440 pounds, and at the moment probably a bit less. He's not eaten a lot by the looks of it. Now, that's a lot. If you think of the weight, that's it's about, what is that, about 2.5 of me. But when you get close to them, and you look at the face, and you look at the feet, the paws, the ears, the scale of these things. I was telling Brian now that I used to put my hand on paws when I've had the opportunity. Now, a big male like his paw alone, and that's not counting the nails. If you look very carefully, in fact, Brian, I think we might just see it, huh?
Yeah, you can
see the nails there. The paw, now if you open up your hand now, I've got a sort of an average size hand. I don't have very big hands. The average size male hand would be the size of that lion's paw, and that's not with the nails out. That's the paw when it's relaxed. In other words, when that paw is totally calm and relaxed, it is that size. Now, what I always told people, put that into perspective and put that on the side of your face. So that's the size of that lion's paw, that size, when it's relaxed. When the nails come out, now lion's nails are about that long. In inches for you guys in North America, that's about, what is that, about 6 centimeters, is about 2.5 inches, something like, give or take. Now, a lion's paw is essentially a hand with fingers. So when the fingers, I mean, this is a very simplified explanation, but when the fingers curl up like this when they're walking, you've got the nails sitting up here. When they stretch the fingers out, the nails extend as well. So when a lion is running and is grabbing for a, let's say he's hunting a buffalo, and he's grabbing for it, he's extending it, and those nails are coming out, and he's holding on. So then you've got an area like the size of like a baseball mitt. You know, those gloves that you guys use when you play baseball, like that size, actually a bit bigger even, that it stretches out. Now, combine that with sharp nails and with unimaginable strength behind it, it is unbelievable what these guys can get up to. So you can sit next to a lion like this, totally relaxed, not doing much, sleeping, and easily forget that this is, you know, this is the apex predator on land, certainly in Africa, when we might have to reconsider when you start looking at some of the big bears. But the size and the dimensions and the power and the sort of athletic combination of how they built, it's absolutely amazing with lions. I mean, that's why a lion like this, on his own even sometimes, but 2 or 3 of them together can take on an 800-900 kilogram buffalo, you know, a buffalo that weighs in the vicinity of 1,000, 6,800 pounds, and hunt them. It is, it's something that I think one forgets about sometimes, because so many times you see them just like this, you know, just a big cat looking all cute and fuzzy. But so much strength there, and look at the dexterity as well, sorry. This is, and I'm just catching up because I just saw his paw there now. Could you see that injury? Guys, and I do apologize. Please, those of you that know the lions well, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still catching up to it, and I always trust you guys will help me if I get it wrong. But this is one of the Matimbas, and the last time I saw this lion was actually, if I remember correctly, on a drive with yours, one of the landowners here in Torchwood. And he told me that injury on the foot has now been coming along for a long time. I'll have to ask again, but well over a year. I think closer to 2 years. And the discussion between him and some of the other guides and rangers that are here very frequently was that that's from possibly a snake bite. It's just never healed properly. Unfortunately, we can't see it now. And as I said, please, if I have the wrong lion in mind here, correct me. But I'm fairly certain, because I remember photographing him on First Rock, which is a beautiful granite outcrop, but east from here. But that inside of the front right leg, it's basically a raw patch. Now, coming back to the strength and the hardness or the toughness of these animals, the guess is that it would have been a bite by something like a puff adder. maybe a spitting cobra, perhaps. There's one or two other cytotoxic venoms that could have caused it, but most likely a puff adder. Puff adder is very similar to vipers, to rattlesnakes. It's that type of snake. If you've never seen a puff adder, very well camouflaged, quite a short, thick snake, not very fast moving in the sense of covering distance. In other words, they don't move fast like black mamba does, but extremely fast striking, and like a sort of coiled muscle, if you want. Now, puff adders have got a cytotoxic venom, and that's just a fancy word for a venom that breaks down the cells. So you get neurotoxins like a mamba, which attacks your nervous system, but a cytotoxic venom breaks down the cells. So effectively, you get severe tissue damage, gangrene, effectively in the end, and it's the snake that's killed the most people in Africa over the last 50 or 100 years that people have been recording statistics like this. And it's not because it kills you instantly. Most humans can live for days, even afterwards, but the venom is just so severe that it eventually just causes severe tissue damage, or wherever it is, arm or a leg. And I've got a number of friends that have been bitten by puff adders that have lost fingers and things to it. Point being, if this bites a human, you would either have to go to hospital, get treated very fast, and survive, maybe lose a finger or something in the process. If you don't get it treated, after a few days you won't survive. Yet here we've got a lion that has lived with this, and I must ask you also someone again, guys, again, I know many of you in the vehicle have been on game drives many times over the last many years. If you have the information, please send it into questions@wildearth.tv, and if someone has an idea of when this was first sighted, remind me. But fascinating that a lion can live with a bite like that for months and years. I mean, I know of other cases of lions, I know of leopard as well, that survive bites like that, something that would have easily killed a human. So it's not only in the physical power of being able to jump on a buffalo or the physical strength to hunt, but also their, what's a good word, their robustness, their endurance, their ability to cope with adverse physical conditions as well. Very tough animals. I mean, I can think of so many stories over the years of lions that I've seen that have been through battles where they've battled other lions, and you've seen them coming out the other end with massive cuts and holes in them, and I could tell you heartbreaking stories and horrific stories about lions and the injuries they sustain, and then I can tell you heartwarming and happy stories about how those very same lions recovered from it, and not necessarily months later, sometimes weeks later, one or two great meals later. It is unbelievable how robust and how durable these animals are. And largely, and this is not a joke, it is due to the fact that they sleep a lot. They can recover from, if you look at any wild lion, this guy or any lioness that's lived wild for 5 or 10 or 12 years, 15 years, sometimes they get that old, they've got so many broken bones that have healed. And I'm not just talking about the tailbone or the finger bone, I'm talking about big bones, ribs, and, we found lion skulls where there's breaks in the spinal column. These guys are incredibly good at surviving injuries, and part of that is that they take in high volume of protein, of food, and then they will spend 1 day, 2 days, 3, 4 days just resting. If they're injured, even more so. And literally just this, lying, almost not moving at all, maybe turning around now and again, and literally just recovering, recuperating. And it is unbelievable what these things can survive through. Yeah, African lion. Hello guys, Jackie's class again, but now it's the 7th grade class. I presume you've had a different class come in that time. Jackie and Lexus, guys, again, nice to have you in the vehicle. Oh, look at that, you can see the eyes there a little bit. He's giving us he's going back to sleep. Jackie, you guys are asking If animals are injured in the wild, can we step in and help? We being the collective, human presence here in the game reserve. Yes, we can. That's the easy answer. But generally speaking, we don't. And this is going into sort of reserve policies and things. I'm not going to go into it too much. I mean, some places have got slightly different takes on things. But generally speaking, if the injury was caused by something specific human, and this is a long conversation, hours of conversation. I'm not going to go into all of that. But in the end, we all live on one planet in one nature. It's not like we're separate from it as humans. But that aside, if it's a snare or something random that happened, some accident somehow with a vehicle or something, then the tendency would be to help that animal, depending on what animal it is. And if it's something very special or something endangered, Pilanesberg, for instance, where I worked years ago, black rhinos still are something we have to really cherish and look after, same as white rhino, then people might step in and help. If it's something like this, there you can see that injury now again from a natural injury, so to speak, or from a fight. Typically it's left because nature must run its course. And as I said, it's a little bit dependent on circumstances, a little bit dependent on policy of the reserve, and also on the species involved in the end. So, but as a general rule, in an open system like this, keep in mind, we are in Djuma Game Reserve, which is part of the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which again in turn is part of the Greater Kruger National Park. We're talking about millions of acres of land, massive, massive area. And in that, you let the ecosystem run its course. To help an animal like this with his foot, or to help something with a broken horn or something like that, it would often be for emotional reasons to make ourselves feel better, and not necessarily for the greater good of the game reserve or for the survival of that specific species. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. As a general sort of rule of thumb, Jackie, we don't involve ourselves too much with helping the animals, other than providing a beautiful, safe place where they can live and protecting that space fiercely if need be, and encouraging that space by things like ecotourism and photographic safaris and what we're doing right at this moment. But we don't involve ourselves too easily or too readily with individual animals in individual cases. But there are certain merits to it. I think that should give you a good enough answer to the question. As I said, it's actually a large, very wide and controversial even topic. But this guy survives fine. He's looking a bit skinny at the moment, but that's not because of the injury. That's because he hasn't had a good meal in a while, which might change, I don't think in the next minute or two, although you never know, but I think it might change in the next hour or two. This is the time when everything starts moving. You'd call this crepuscular time. You get diurnal animals, things that live in the day. You get nocturnal animals that live in the night. Us humans tend to do both. And then you get animals that are very active. In fact, a large amount of animals that are active around crepuscular time, which is the time we're in now. That time building up to sunset, around sunset and just after, and again in the morning building up to sunrise and just after. And a lot of things happen. Your diurnal animals start settling down, your nocturnal animals start waking up, your hunters start hunting, your prey have to be more alert. And I must say, I'm almost tempted to go look around quarantine a little bit to see if there's a leopard around, and then coming back to this guy. But at the same time, it might change at any second. He might get up and move at any second. It doesn't look like it, but trust me, in the blink of an eye, they can be up and moving. So I think we'll stay put for now, see what he gets up to, answer a few more questions, and see what we've got left for the last part of the drive. We've got about a half an hour left.